So for this dress, you'll be needing the shoulder measurement, the bust measurement, and the length of the dress. So normally to make a flare dress or a circle dress, you will have to fold your fabric this way in a triangular form or in a bias form, taking your shoulder measurement, the armhole, and the length of the dress. But for this tutorial, I wouldn't be making use of this method. So if you take a close look at the thumbnail, you will notice that the dress doesn't have a lot of fullness or flare going on. So this is because of the method that was used in cutting this dress. So I'll be showing you how to achieve this. So I have my half scale bodice here, which is what I'm going to use in drafting this gown. So I'll quickly go over it. So this is the shoulder measurement. So for the neckline, I use the width of 3.5 inches and the depth is 4 inches. This is for the front. So for the back is the same width and the depth is 1 inch. So on the bust point, quarter of the bust measurement is 10 inches plus half inch ease and 1 inch seam allowance. So this is the back armhole and this is the front armhole. So I also went ahead to join a half inch extension for seam allowance. So the concentration here now is on this part from the bust point upwards. So I wouldn't be making use of this part. So this is what I'll be using to cut out the dress we're about to make. So the quantity of fabric I'll be working with is 3 yards. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to show you how to fold your fabric to achieve this. So I have 3 yards here folded into two because I'm going to be cutting the front and the back together. So for here, this is the folded end, okay? Here is the open end, here is the open end, here is the open end. You're going to come this way, just like this. So this is the folded end this way, and these are the open ends. So after folding, you go ahead and place your fabric this way. So like I said, I'm working with 3 yards and the length I'm working with is 42 inches. So when placing your pattern, just make sure you don't exceed here. So just place it carefully this way. So go ahead and use your pins to hold this pattern down. So after securing the pattern, the next thing I'm going to do now is to take the gown length. So the gown length I'm working with is 42 inches and I'll be adding 1 inch for hemming allowance. So I'm going to place my tape this way and mark 43 inches, which should be around here. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to connect the markings together. So the next thing I'm going to do now is from here, from this point here, I'll be connecting it to this end of the fabric. So I'm going to place my tape this way and connect. So now that we're done drafting, the next thing I need to cut this out, but I'll be making use of the back armhole and the back neckline before cutting out the front. So this is what we have after cutting. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to separate the pieces. So I'm going to separate it to cut the front neckline and the front armhole. So the next thing is to cut the facing for the front panel. So I have my leftover fabric here and it's unfold this way. So I'm just going to place it underneath just like this. So guys, I'm marking on the right side of my fabric just for the sake of the tutorial. So if you have to do yours, please mark on the wrong side of your fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do now is just to trace this neckline this way. So I want the wideness of the facing to be 2.5 inches. So I'm going to place my tape this way and measure 2.5 inches, just like this. So I'll trace it this way to meet with the 2.5 inches. and I'm going to take this away. Now I'm going to measure 2.5 inches this way also. Okay, so I'm going to connect it to here. So I'm going to cut this out. So for the back panel, before I cut out the facing, because this doesn't have a zipper allowance, I'm going to come down here by 5 inches here, and I'm going to slit it open up until this 5 inches. So for the back, I'll also place the facing this way. So I'm going to make sure that after this opening here, I have about 2.5 to 3 inches. So I have more than that. So the next thing I'm going to also do now is to trace this neckline. Now I'll make sure I have 2.5 inches this way, and I'll trace it to the 2.5 inches. So the next thing to do is to mark here where the slit ends. So I'm going to take this panel off. So from here, I'll also mark 2.5 inches this way. So I'm going to connect it from here just to meet with this 2.5 inches this way. Okay, then I'm going to trace this out and open up until this point. So after cutting our facing, this is what we have for the back, and this is the facing for the front. So I also have this tiny strap cut out here, which will also be used to make the button loop. So I'm going to measure what I have now. So I have about 4 inches here and 1.5. Okay, this is 4 inches by 1.5. So I'm going to take it to the machine. I'll fold it in this way again, and also into two. So after folding, I'll run a stitch from the beginning to the end here. Then after that, I'll have to fold this way. So you're going to fold in the way that it will cross each other. Then I'm going to run a stitch to secure it. For the back facing, I'm going to put my loop first. I'll have to place the loop this way, but not at the beginning, because you need to create some allowances for turning of the neck. So the loop is going to start about 1/4 inch away from here, or 1/2 inch this way. So when you place this here, you now take this and place it this way. So you could use a pin to hold it down. Then you place it well and sew up the neckline. You sew up this all the way to this end. So after sewing, this is what I have. I also went ahead to add my button. So when you're sewing your facing, you would need to use a hemming gum, or you tack it. So this is so as to keep your facing stable. So for the front panel, before we turn the neckline with the facing, this is the time to introduce any trimmings of your choice. So I have mine here. I made this myself. So you can use any trimmings of your choice. You can make use of a ready-made trimming, or you make yours yourself. So you're going to place it at the neckline this way, and you're going to take it down to the hem. So the trimming is going to be here and this other part of the front panel. So I'm going to determine how far apart I want my trimmings to be. So I'm going to mark about, let's say, 6 inches apart from each other. So by the time I open up, it will be 12 inches. So from here, I'll be connecting all the way to the neckline. So I'm going to draw a line that will serve as a guide. So this line is going to serve as a guideline. So I'm going to place my trimming this way on the line, just like this, following the line all the way down. So I'll be repeating the same thing for this other end. Once I'm done, I'm going to open this up, then place the facing, right side facing each other this way on the neckline, and sew it up. So after sewing, this is how it looks like. So this is how the end of the gown looks like, and this is how the top looks like. So the next thing now is to place the back panel on top of the front panel, and I'll be closing up with 1/2 inch. I'll close up the shoulder, the sides, and I'll finish up the hem. So for the sleeve, you can make use of any sleeve of your choice. I'll be making use of a basic long sleeve. It's going to have an elastic at the sleeve opening here. So if you don't know how to draft a basic sleeve, I have a detailed video on how to draft a basic sleeve on my channel, and I'll be leaving the link in the description box. So after joining, this is the finished look of my gown. So this is the top part and this is the bottom part of the gown. So I also went ahead to join my sleeve. So this is just a basic long sleeve with an elastic at the bottom part here. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.